and I say that the black family has been attacked and it has been brought to a near point of destruction, we have to understand that to understand all of the fallout. So that we see many, many children in foster care. Why? Because parents cannot take care of them economically. Many, many children in orphanages, many, many children in juvenile detention centers, and then instead of graduating from college, they graduate into the penitentiaries and into the prisons. And because of the stress of families not being able to function, mothers and fathers are depressed, and black people find themselves feeling so bad and not understanding why they're feeling bad, and because they are blamed instead of everybody saying white supremacy is starting this problem.
My brothers and I despised my father. I thought my father was harsh, mean. He spanked us too hard. He whipped us with a belt too often. And the thing that bothered me the most about it, and the thing that made me despise him the most, is we would do something or say something, it would set him off, and then we'd do something or say the same thing, and it wouldn't set him off. So you couldn't even figure out what was making him tick. I didn't even know why he had kids. Unfortunately, the SOB starts a little cafe when I'm 10 years old. So now I got to work for him. I didn't like working for him. Now, when I say cafe, it was a little diner, a little box. It had about 16 seats. And so the cooking thing was right in the middle, and you sat around it. So you could hear everything that was going on and see everything that was going on. And he would always yell at me. And I didn't think it was fair. I was, in my opinion, the best waiter he ever had, but he would still yell at me. Now I'm 15 years old. I put up with this for 5 years. And I would like to tell you that I said to myself, the next time this SOB yells at me, I'm going to go up to him and I'm going to say, now see here, sit down. We're going to talk about having an adult relationship going forward. I couldn't do that. I was afraid of my father. So I said to myself, the next time this SOB yells at you, you just walk out, which would have been an act of defiance no one had ever done to my dad. So the waitress had called in sick that day. The restaurant was full of people, and my father yelled at me. And I went in the back, I took off the apron, and I walked out. And I went home. My father came home that evening, and he was furious. And he said, "Why did you leave?" And I said, "Dad, I got sick and tired of the way you talk to me, and I'm not putting up with it anymore." My father paid me $10 a day plus tips. He bolted the $10, he threw it at me as I lay on the bed. He walked out of my bedroom, and my father and I did not have another conversation for 10 years. And when I say not have a conversation, I mean not have a conversation. Not even, how about those Rams? Is it going to rain? Did the Dodgers make the World Series? I mean nothing. And it was easy to avoid him. He worked long hours. I knew what his hours were. And I was in high school, and I was able to avoid even being in the same room with him. So now I graduate from high school. I go to college in New England. I go to law school in the Midwest. I end up working in Ohio. Of course, I would come back to visit my mother, but I would always make sure my dad and I were not in the same room, and it was easy to avoid him. So now I'm 25 years old. I passed the Ohio bar, the California bar, and I'm living and working at one of the most prestigious law firms in the country, making the equivalent of about I'm 25 years old, I'm making the equivalent of about $150K. And I should be living large, and I can't sleep. And I know it's about my father. Not that I ever thought we would be friends. In fact, I didn't want to be friends. Not that I ever thought we could reconcile our relationship. I never wanted to. But I knew it had something to do with my father. So I called my secretary and I said, cancel all my appointments. I'm flying to LA, and I'll come back in about 3-4 days. I didn't tell my parents I was coming because I didn't want my father to prepare. LAX, I get there and I take a cab to my dad's restaurant. Now, I knew he closed at 2:30. I walk in at 1:30. He was shocked to see me. I had a bag. He said, "Larry, should I put your bag?" I said, "No, Dad. I'm going to only be here for 5 or 10 minutes. I want to tell you something, and then I'm taking off." He said, "Okay, wait until we close." So I sat there for an hour. I said, "Now, Larry, don't tee off on the man. Don't tell him everything he's ever done. Don't tell him every spanking, every whipping, everything. Don't tell him everything. Just give him the highlights, cliff notes, and he'll probably call you an ungrateful son. You call him an SOB as a dad, and maybe you'll be able to sleep. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm out the door." So my dad sat next to me, 2 stools, and I teed off on him. Now, those of you getting just to know me, you know how I can go. So for 20 minutes, I told him every spanking, every whipping, everything he'd ever done to me. The time he spanked me in front of my cousin Elaine, that was embarrassing. The time he spanked me in front of my best friend Carl, that was embarrassing. Every single thing he ever said to me, everything he did to me, I told him. 20 minutes nonstop. And finally, I was out of ammo. I couldn't think of anything else. My dad looked up and said, "Is that it? You stopped speaking to me because of that?" And I said, "Yes." And for the first time, I saw my father cry. Now, I must tell you, I didn't think the man had the ability to engage in that activity known as crying. I didn't think he could do it. And he said, "Larry, let me tell you about my father." Now, I must pause here. I knew nothing about my father's life, other than I knew he was an only child because we never got any presents. I met his mother one time, and that's all I knew about him, and that's all I cared about because I didn't like him anyway. Who cared about his life? For the next 8 hours, my father and I sat in this chair, and he told me about his life. He said, "You know your last name, Larry Elder?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's not my biological father's name." I said, "What? Well, who's your biological father?" "I don't know." "You don't know never met him?" He told me my mother was illiterate, could neither read nor write. She didn't want to work. She lived off men, had a series of men, each one more irresponsible than the other. Elder was in his life the longest, maybe 4 years. My dad said, I came home from school. I was 13 years old. And my dad said, I'm probably going to drop out of school anyway because my mom would not buy me long pants. Everybody wore short pants until the 8th grade, and then you had long pants. Otherwise, kids would ridicule you. And she did not have the money, or claimed she didn't have the money. It was not going to get him long pants. He didn't have the money, so he's probably going to drop out anyway. But he came home at the age of 13 and starts quarreling with his mom's then boyfriend. Mother sided with the boyfriend, threw my father out of the house, never to return. 13-year-old boy, Athens, Georgia, at the beginning of the Great Depression, deep in Jim Crow South. And I said, well, Dad, what did you do? And he said, I went down the dirt road and I knocked on the door and I did whatever anybody wanted me to do. I cleaned up this, I cleaned up that. I ultimately became a shoe shine boy. I got a job as a hotel valet. And then I applied for and got a job as a Pullman porter. They were the largest private employer of blacks in those days. So this black boy from Athens, Georgia was able to go all over the country, and one day on a run, he came to Los Angeles, California, where it was sunny, where people smiled, and where he could walk into a restaurant in the front door and be served. And he was blown away by that. And he made a mental note, maybe someday I'll relocate to Los Angeles, Pearl Harbor. My dad joined Marines. I said, Dad, why the Marines? He said, Larry, they go where the action is, and I love those uniforms. My father was stationed on the island of Guam. He was a staff sergeant in charge of cooking for the colored soldiers. My father can look at a cake and tell you what's in it. That's how good he is. So the war is over. He goes back to Chattanooga, where he met and married my mom. And he went around to several restaurants to get a job as a short order cook, and he is told to his face, we don't hire niggers. My father goes to an unemployment office. The lady says, you went through the wrong door. Go to the right door. My dad goes out the hall, sees colored only, goes through that door to the very same lady who sent him out. She was just letting him know what the rules were. He came home to my mother and said, this is BS. I'm going to Los Angeles, where I was before the war. I'm going to get me a job as a cook, and I'll send for you. He comes out to LA, he walks around, and he's told, you don't have references. My dad said, I need references to make ham and eggs? They treated him the same way in LA as they did in Chattanooga. They were just a little more polite about it. This time, unemployment office, one door. Lady says, I have nothing. My dad said, what time do you open? She says, 9 o'clock. What time do you close? She said, 5 o'clock. I'll be in that chair from 9 until 5, and I'll be there the next day and the next day and the next day till you find something. My dad sat in that chair for a day, sat there for half a day. She calls him up, sir, I have something. I don't know whether or not you're going to want it. My dad said, of course I'm going to want it. I have a family. She said, it's a job with Nabisco brand bread cleaning toilets. My dad did that for 10 years. Took a second full-time job cleaning toilets at Barber and Bread. It's now defunct. It was also a bread company. He cooked for a family on the weekends to make additional money, and he went to school 2 or 3 nights a week to get his GED. The man never slept. That was why he was always so cranky. If I don't get 5 hours, you don't be around me. This guy would get 15 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Not day after day, not week after week, not month after month, year after year after year. You do that and you walk into a house with 3 rambunctious boys and you tell me how you're going to feel. And I just began to cry.
And black people find themselves feeling so bad and not understanding why they're feeling bad. And because they are blamed, instead of everybody saying white supremacy is starting this problem. But the white supremacy state and the white supremacy culture keeps saying, no, you black people, you are the problem, you are the problem, the male is the problem, the female is the problem, the so-called black family is the problem. That's the same dynamic of blaming black people that is occurring in Boston. And so the black people are blamed and they feel stressed and they feel bad. And then the same white supremacy system says, if you're feeling bad, I put a liquor store on that corner. And if you're feeling real bad, I put some cocaine and heroin and marijuana out here and crack and ice. I have manufactured this stuff for you because it's going to destroy your brain. I created it in a laboratory especially for you. I put it out here. I know you're feeling bad. I know daddy's not at home. I know mama doesn't understand. I know the teachers in school don't understand. You're feeling bad. I know you see uncle and brother standing on the corner unemployed. No car, no job, no clothes. Well, I'm going to set up a market over here that I know I can trap every single one of you in. And that market, I'm going to create it. I'm going to put the drugs there. I'm going to put a price on the drugs. I'm going to give you a gun to reinforce getting that price. Unbeknownst to you, I have set it all up. I want you dead. I want your brain cells killed. I do not want you in the colleges. I do not want you being fathers and families. I do not want you being the leaders of a community, because this will challenge white genetic survival. Now, this is the war.
And that brings us now to the gang culture we have now. Right here in Chicago, people are talking about the gangs, the gangs. That's what we see on the news, and that's what we see on in newspapers nationwide. They're talking about the gangs and the violence. But nobody's talking about the real deal as far as the violence. See, people are talking about these gun laws that don't have nothing to do with nothing. The gun laws, that's talking about the how, not the why. You understand? You're talking about how they're killing each other. That don't get us to the root of why they're doing it. See, the thing is, in Chicago is a very unique city. See, it's 2 things that's contributing to all of the violence with the gangs out here in Chicago. There's 2 things. We're going to get into it right now so we can stop the BS. Number 1 is the unemployment rate with young black men. That's the first thing. The unemployment rate is like at the top 3 for young black men, so they don't have any jobs, right? Now, some people might say, well, there's unemployment in other cities, Tariq. They're not shooting and killing like Chicago, but there's another thing that makes Chicago unique. Chicago is the most segregated city, major city in the United States. They leave that out. That's what makes Chicago unique. So the poverty is concentrated. So a kid in Brooklyn or New York somewhere, if he can't get a job in his immediate neighborhood, at least he can take a subway or a train and go out to the outskirts and probably find something. If a guy in Los Angeles can't get a job in Compton or Watts, he can go out to the Valley or somewhere to get employment. A young kid here who doesn't have employment in his neighborhood, he can't go anywhere else because they socially shut him off.
When the officer asked you to come to him and talk to him?
But that's because I'm cutting the yard. I'm kind of busy. I'm trying to make my money.
Yeah, but when I saw you, you were going from door to door.
Yeah, I'm putting my business cards out.
Yeah.
Look.
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay?
That's all you have to ask. You know, you see me cutting grass,
Let
man.
me see your ID.
I don't have it on me.
How old are you?
19, sir.
What's your name?
Marvin
Marvin what?
Gibson.
Date of birth? What's your
10,
date?
12, yeah, 12, 99, sir.
10, 12, 99?
Yes. Now, what is all this for?
What is all what for?
Well, taking my name down and stuff.
Because I'm investigating what you're doing.
What do you mean investigating?
Whenever an officer asks you for your ID, you're supposed to provide your ID. If you don't
I'm
have
working.
your ID, I
I'm
don't care
working.
what you're doing.
Okay, can I have your card then? Can I have a card, or you write your name down for me, please?
R77, hang on. Check right.
Can I have a card, please, sir? Write your name down for me.
Tell you what. Just turn around, put your hands behind
For what? Hey, nope. Hey, this man, hey, look, this man, look, hey. Look, this man trying to arrest me. It's on camera. Hey, nope. Hey. Look, I asked him for a card for his name. I got it all on recording. We going to court, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. No. Hey.
You
Hey.
want to come over here?
I asked him for a card for his name. He trying to arrest. Hey, I ain't did nothing. You cannot put me in handcuffs, sir. Put them back in your pocket. I'm asking you. Hey.
What's the problem?
Hey, look.
I don't understand. The reason that you're not talking on that mic because you don't got nothing to talk about.
Exactly. We cutting grass, sir. You harassing us. We putting cars in people's door.
Put your hands down. Put your hands down.
My hands.
Put your hands down.
His hand's not up. Give me a card. I need your name.
You can't just because he's black.
Yeah.
That's what you did,
Yeah.
Just because he's black.
And I'm putting cards in the door right here.
We doing
Look, this all we doing. This all we doing. You don't need my ID. Why are you trying to run my name? I need a card. I need your name.
No, we don't
Get,
need
no,
it.
Marcus, no. Look. Cause look, if I don't do something about it, he gonna keep doing it, and somebody gonna get hurt.
That's where the problem is. The poverty is concentrated because of the segregation. This is the most racially segregated major city in the United States, and they keep leaving that out. And the thing is, in this city, segregation means one thing and one thing only: no blacks. Segregation has never been a two-sided thing. It means no blacks. That's all it means. Even in civil rights, it meant no blacks. When Rosa Parks was on that bus in Montgomery, people think that she tried to sit in the white section. She did not try to sit in that white section. Rosa Parks was sitting in the colored section. The rule was, if the white section was packed, whites could make blacks get up out of the colored section. The dude went to the back of the bus and tried to make Rosa Parks get out of the colored section, and she refused to, and that's why she got arrested. So whites could go in the colored section, you just couldn't go to the white section. So segregation has always been a one-way street. Just like now, black people can't penetrate other people's societies here in Chicago, but they can penetrate yours. They can come into your community, start their businesses, and funnel out what little resources that are there. So you leave even less crumbs on the table, and now people are fighting and shooting over these little crumbs.
When a forest grows too wild, a purging fire is inevitable and natural. Tomorrow the world will watch in horror as its greatest city destroys itself. The movement back to harmony will be unstoppable this time.
You attacked Gotham before.
Of course. Over the ages, our weapons have grown more sophisticated. With Gotham, we tried a new one, economics. But we underestimated certain of Gotham's citizens, such as your parents. Guns down by one of the very people they were trying to help. Create enough hunger and everyone becomes a criminal.
If each one of us is to be a leader in this war, counter-war, war is being waged against us, terrorism is being waged against us. See, when you have 50% of the men in a community unemployed, that's terrorism. And when you bring drugs and guns in and say, now you can deal with this is going to be your job, and they have it all set up. Yeah, this is your job until I arrest you and put you in prison and have you working for slave labor. That's terrorism. Racism, white supremacy is the highest form of terrorism ever conceived on this planet.
Am I only a God nearby, declares the Lord, and not a God far away? Who can hide in secret places so that I cannot see them, declares the Lord. Do not I fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord.